Happy Saturday and welcome to the Ramashram Satsang Weekend Workshop, where you will learn a modern satsang method for obtaining peace, light, and love in your life. My name is Shibangi and I will be introducing the facilitator for today's event. But first, I would like to give you a brief overview to this satsang session. If you will direct your attention to the screen, you will see that the first element is satsang. Satsang is a scientific method whereby we may obtain peace, light, and love in our lives. It requires no physical skill, spiritual accomplishment, or meditation experience to begin this practice. Satsang consists of two words, Sat and Sang. Sat means positive energy, and Sang means to be with or to be in the presence of. Therefore, the word Satsang means to be in the presence of positive energy. The next element is meditation. Meditation is an important part of satsang. When we meditate, our consciousness is drawn from worldly objects and directed inward to focus on a single thought. In doing so, our minds become calm and our thoughts become pure, leading us to higher states of consciousness such as enlightenment, peace, light, and love. Inner orientation. There are two types of satsangs, inner satsang and outer satsang. An example of outer satsang would be chanting or attending pilgrimages. When we practice outer satsang, we have the potential to change our behavior. But it is only through the practice of inner satsang can we obtain higher states of consciousness such as enlightenment, peace, light, and love. This is the type of satsang we will learn today where we meditate in silence. Group sessions. These weekend workshops are structured for group participation. When we meditate as a group, our focus is improved and our personal progress along our spiritual path is expedited. By regularly attending these weekend workshops, the benefits of group participation are amplified. Joy and inner happiness. All beings wish to experience joy. Joy is the eternal longing of the soul, but it is only through the practice of inner satsang can we obtain a joyous state. Each time we practice satsang, our inner happiness gradually increases, ultimately culminating in a state of joy that we experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Next, the agenda for today's session consists of three parts: the informative session, the practice session, and the interactive session. During the informative session, a lecture will be given about a satsang topic, our founder, or some relevant spiritual topic. During the practice session, instructions on how to meditate will be given, followed by a period of practice. During the interactive session, you will have the opportunity to ask questions or there'll be a panel discussion. And now, I'd like to introduce the facilitator for today's event. He has over 40 years of satsang experience. He is the grandson of Guru Maharaj, the founder of Ramashram Satsang. He was born into a satsang family where he witnessed his family members obtaining states of enlightenment and live lives of peace, light, and love. At an early age, he began traveling with the mission throughout India, facilitating satsangs. During that time, he witnessed the positive effects that satsang could have on mankind. Upon arriving in the United States, both he and his wife continued to facilitate satsangs for local satsangis. He has led teams of satsang members in translating important satsang literature into English and has worked tirelessly to make satsang more accessible to Western and English speaking audiences. He currently travels throughout the United States, India, and England facilitating satsangs while maintaining his duties as a husband, a father, and an IT executive. Today, he will teach us a rare and ancient form of satsang as taught by our Guru Maharaj. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sanjeev Kumar ji and his daughter Parul.
Hi, everyone. Happy Saturday, and thank you for joining today. So I'm going to start with our topic, and then Dad will guide us into meditation. So today's topic comes from this saying that your perception of me is a reflection of you. And what got me thinking about this was actually what we spoke about on Tuesday, which, just to recap for those who weren't there, a big part of the lessons that we face in the world stems from the fact that we're pulling energy from other people, places, and things, right? instead of connecting deeply with a higher source and only absorbing that energy first and foremost. So our energy in that case, right, is pulling horizontally from the world around us, from the illusion, rather than, vertically from the higher source of consciousness that we connect with here in satsang, right? So we're connecting with a higher source, but in the world, we start pulling energy from things that are happening to us, from relationships that we're really close to. So the further and further you get along your spiritual path, you'll notice that even your closest connections and attachments will start to subtly change. And it will usually be a lesson around exactly this, which is that we need to learn detachment. And that means we can't rely on the world and the people in it to satisfy our needs energetically. So the more we're pulling energy or we're expecting things and stuff like that, we'll start to kind of see these, almost like a block, like you can't go there for energy because you're supposed to go to that higher source. What we're being pushed towards is to constantly remember the source energy, the highest self, the light, the guru, whatever you choose to believe in. And when you finally plug in constantly through chintan, through sitting meditation, through your walking meditations, through your eating meditations, it becomes easier to remember that the goal of this lifetime is to reach that state of enlightenment, whether it's through actions, meditation, or even as you live your normal life. So once you've fully plugged in, you're on that road to enlightenment. And now, a couple steps before that, the world around us gets extremely highlighted. So we have lessons and reactions that we need to move past so our perception of reality comes into focus. And the main way of the world, which is to blame, to deflect accountability in a lot of circumstances, comes into like a highlighted way of being, right? So an example might be that, my son did this, so I feel this, or, my boss said that, so I need to react right away. And unfortunately, that reactive energy is pulling us further into karmic cycles. And it's easier said than done in the moment, but when we react to things, it should be in moments where we have overcome the defensiveness and the heat of the moment. And the more we engage things in the heat of the moment, the more the karmic pattern takes a hold. So to break that, we want to pause and remember the light and come back to things with a cooler head. But more importantly, this goes with how much we're judging things. Our judgments on others and ourselves, are drawing, when we draw a line in the sand and we say, well, that's wrong and this is right, that's what will start to show up in our reality for us to see that we've drawn a line in the sand and we are still judging things in certain ways. So what will show up in our reality more and more is the things that we need to face. We need to face it, accept it, forgive it, and then finally release it. And that's where we finally experience detachment. And if we don't do this, we will find ourselves judging our closest loved ones, sometimes incorrectly, controlling our environment, and often even losing our faith, because faith means that we're moving, with trust. So if we truly trust that a higher power is moving through our life, then we know that any person placed in front of us is simply a mirror and a reflection for the areas where we ourselves need to do some inner work, both to release things internally and externally. So the next time we want to point the finger outward, remember that our spiritual journey will always point the finger back at ourselves first. And before approaching the illusion, anything in the Maya, approach a higher light and ask for guidance. And on that note, I think that let's get started with our meditation. But just remember that the more that we're pulling energy from the things around us, the less we're connected to that higher source. And the more we trust that that higher source is moving through us and it's guiding us, the more we have faith, the more that we flow with our spiritual life and being and energy. So that is my food for thought today. And
Thank
I
you,
will pass it
Parul.
on to Dad.
Thank you, Parul, and thank you, Shivangi, to get us started today. And happy Saturday, everyone. And this topic, typically I wait for after the meditation to comment, but this topic is so near and dear to me. Just um, I think in a way it is so core to the definition of satsang itself. Sat Sang, which is, to be with transcendental energy. And just to um, illustrate or further um, this concept in a little bit. So this morning, I was reading just a small paragraph from, believe it or not, there is a FAQ uh, in 2 volumes that Guru Maharaj wrote around questions people had asked him. Um, or earlier they used to be letters. People used to write letters, and so they would send him, questions and or problems, and he would respond to them. That continued. Even my father used to delegate to someone to um, make sure that all the letters that come in are answered, and he would sit with them and um, what the response should be and all that. So somebody fairly close to Guru Maharaj came to him, and so they were talking about the general problems of life. So at some point, this person says, "Oh, so so it's a huge list of responsibilities and things that you have to deal with, all the worries that you have, and there are so many problems and issues that you have listed out to me. So with all this, how can you be at peace?" So he says that what usually everybody sees is that you're happy and peaceful. Your house, when you enter, is very peaceful. Anybody who comes near you feels that peace. And they even forget about their own worries. So, how do I get this? How do I understand this? So, Guru Maharaj says that, um, whatever came to me from my Guru is all within me. I have embodied that, and it is now splashing out or oozing out from you know, from everywhere. Um, However many problems or issues come towards me, um, and the desires and all these other things that keep on targeting me, fortunately, with the blessing I have from my Guru, peace does not go away from my heart, and and because of that, not only I stay in peace, but everybody who comes to meet me feels that. um, so all these materialistic things don't really affect me that much, because what my guru actually told me was to live a detached life like an observer. Observe and don't get entangled. Um, so somebody who takes up that approach, becomes free. Um, and whoever brings their own ego and own identity within this realm, um, you know, that gets caught up in this, uh, and those who don't, you know, nirvana is for them. So that was just a quick note, but you know, um, We can talk more about the topic later on, but let's get into the meditation for now. So, eyes lightly closed. And once you close your eyes, observe your body. Make sure you are in a posture that's still and relaxed. Um, so you're comfortable. There is no strain anywhere. Um, with this comfortable posture, now start manifesting this transcendental energy by visualizing the source that is right here, right now, in front of you, and that light, this transcendental energy in form of light, is entering your heart, distributing throughout your body, and you are becoming the light. So mind wanders away, which it will. Just bring it back to this thought and this thought alone, that this transcendental energy in form of light is entering your heart, enlightening your heart, and then this energy, this light is going to every nook and corner of your body, and you are getting completely and totally immersed in this energy, and you are becoming the energy, you are becoming the light. So let's start now. happy Saturday, everyone. And Parul, you can bring back the topic and the conversation around it. In the meanwhile, just a couple of quick announcements. So, one, next Saturday, we'll be at Shivangi's house in west of Philadelphia, and my eldest uncle's daughter and her husband would be there. So looking forward to that. And this Monday, I'll send out an invite for us to get into a community. And I think one of the initial things is how do we keeping everybody's convenience while it's a virtual first approach, but we want to figure out where we can meet in person soon. And yeah, so Parul.
Well, thanks everybody for coming and joining our Saturday session. If you do want to talk about the topic or anything else, feel free to come on now and feel free to say hi.
Oh, one thing I forgot was so last week we had this panel discussion. It was long and a little heavy topic or set of topics. So I think we'll bring it back once a month, and we'll get some feedback and fine tune it for post meditation conversations. And Parul, I think Arvindji wanted to talk a little bit about food, which is very important topic. But then let's have the conversation first, and we can go there.
Well, if anybody does want to come on, feel free, and then we can get into the food, which I would love to learn about.
I'll just jump in. Happy Saturday. It was great meditating. It was a beautiful, deep meditation today, so I appreciate it. And the topic was very interesting, as it always is. I think the words or the one thing that you said that really is still in my mind that I'm still thinking about is when you said each person that appears in your life is an opportunity for you to kind of they're a mirror, I think you said, of of you and what you need to kind of work on or what you would like to work on. And I thought that's so true, even with people that give you, even people that challenge you just as much as people that you admire, actually, because each person gives you the opportunity to reflect back in a non-egotistic way, a non-vain way, and to say, oh, what can I cultivate inside of me that can make me better? And that person helped you to like figure that out. So that was really cool. Thank you.
Thank you, and so good to see you. I hope you're doing good. But yeah, that's like something I think about a lot, how sometimes people will act in a certain way and it'll show us that, the ego can go that way, but sometimes we tame it or choose not to go that way. So then when we see someone playing it out, it's like triggering. But it's just another invitation to look within ourselves where we might have that aspect and we don't act it out, but sometimes we see it and it's a trigger. Yeah. But thanks for sharing. So good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks.
Anybody else? You can also drop stuff in the chat. Come say hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. It was a great meditation. I just want to piggyback on that to say that someone, and I don't remember who it was, on my journey through everything we go through, had once said that everyone who comes into your life has a lesson to teach you. Even the people who, and I believe the quote was something about it could even be a tyrant who comes into your life. You learn a lesson from every single person that comes into your life. And I believe in what we're talking about, that that's true, that you learn to look inside yourself, even with the lessons that don't seem like they're pleasant lessons. You learn to look inside yourself and see how you can best react to that situation rather than with the ego.
Yeah, I love that. I could go on. I think even my dad can go on for days about the different aspects of the ego and how it plays out and how we get reactive and defensive and all the things. But yeah, I think especially in 2025, I know we're all going through crazy stuff and in the world too. So we're seeing it like in real time, how if you just let it go free, how bad it can get. So yeah, interesting times we're living in. But yeah, everybody is a lesson. We all have very different lessons and some really similar. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah, if Urban Uncle wants to come on, feel free. I think would love to hear about the food.
Namaskar, Pavel. Namaskar, Puja Bhaiya. Let me put this light on. Hold on. And happy Saturday, everybody. It was such a deep, as Luz was saying, it was such a deep and blissful meditation. I'm just very fortunate to join, and I just can't count my blessings that I'm able to join. I just don't know what to say. Don't feel like saying anything, to be honest. What can I say? Gosh, ask me something if you wish to about food. But the thing, very briefly, I came across a study, not complicated. It was 22,000 people were studied approximately, and they were divided into three segments. One was vegetarian, section, the other one was vegan, and then there was omnivorous. And thank you, Puj Bhaiya, for putting on this slide. Basically, what we know about the gut and the brain and the human system is that, as you can see in this slide, there is a barrier. There are three main barriers between the gut and our system. So the intestinal barrier on the left, you can see, has a vascular supply in the middle, and those different types of cells are all protective, so the gut microbiome, the biological bacterial composition, in the gut there's digestion, and when there's digestion there's fermentation. So all those barriers protect the rest of the human being from negative inflammatory aspects of the gut. The next barrier is the gut vascular barrier. Obviously, the food that we eat, has to go to us, and nourish our body. And so the blood vessels take the nutritious material from the gut. But around it, there's different layers of protection, as you can see, three layers of protection that are present. But more importantly, if you go to the right, there is a blood-brain barrier. So our brain is protected from toxins, again, by three different layers. So, for example, in vegetarians and vegans particularly, and also in vegetarians, if you have green food, plant-based food, that is polysaccharide and polyphenols, for example. And when they ferment, the fermentation product produces short-chain fatty acids, which calms the gut lining and improves the immune protection of the gut. So, but meat products, for example, do the opposite, and they reduce the short chain fatty acids and they produce inflammation. So there's a leak. Basically, what I wanted to say through these three figures is that the circulation then the inflamed substances, the cytokines, the inflammatory cells, they leak through in certain meats and things. So when there's fermentation, that leak affects the internal vascular system, the heart, the cardiometabolic system, and the blood-brain barrier. And those toxic substances produce negative effects. And it can go very deep, but that's all I wanted to say in
So,
brief.
Arvindji, so uh, if you step back, what are these barriers and why are they important?
Yeah. So these barriers are essentially because the gut microbiome is full of trillions of bacteria. And bacteria mostly can cause lots of inflammation if they leak through the gut, you see, to the circulation and to the brain. So the barriers exist, A, to be able to transfer the nutritional foods, the breakdown to our circulation and to liver. And they protect us at the same time from those negative toxins and chemicals. So that's why the barriers exist. But the barriers can be functionally broken down, or there can be a leak, so-called a leak of the barrier, if we eat consistently the wrong foods. And that's what this study showed of 22,000 people. So that was a very large study. And it showed clearly that there is significant alterations in the bacterial composition, number one. So in vegetarians and in vegans, the bacterial composition was such that it had positive effects, whereas in people who had, for example, constant or regular red meats and so forth, their bacterial composition was more inflammatory in nature. So, and that produced negative effects to the vascular system, to the heart, and to the brain.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Nope, I'll wait. Go ahead.
How does seafood play out in this framework?
Yeah, seafood is certainly not, there was no separate data on seafood per se, but the data is mostly to do with red meats. So seafood in general is not as toxic as the other, but on the other hand, those who were vegetarians and vegans had improved cardiometabolic profile and had improved blood-brain barrier profiles. So I can only speculate that seafood is somewhere in the middle of those, of the two cohorts, you see. But
And
there
then
are
what about like junk food, like, pizza, bagels, coffee?
Yeah, E numbers are certainly, I know that there are several products in the US that have cereals, for example, that have E numbers. They're banned in the EU. They're banned completely. And if you go to Costco in the EU, there are a couple of aisles of those cereals that are not, you can't ship them here. People are not happy about that, but hey,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's skincare ingredients that are also banned in the EU that are not banned in America. So
yeah.
great to be in America.
I think Paula had a question. Yeah.
I was just wondering, in the study of these 22,000 people, or in general,
Yeah.
what is the toxic cumulative effect? Are we talking about just cardiovascular health, or does this also, and again, I don't know about this particular study, does this speak to the increased cancer rates in our country, or what exactly was the findings of the study?
Thank you, Paula. That's a very good question. And the short answer is any aspect of health you can think of. Any aspect of health. Because we have to remember the vascular supply that seeps in, that takes, all the nutrients to our body, is from head to toe. And the vascular supply, if that's affected, then it affects any part of the body, number one. Number two, with gut cancer, there's clear evidence, strong evidence, that the types of food we eat, particularly, for example, red meats and so forth, the breakdown chemical products are irritants to the gut mucosa over time. And there is a strong link of, for example, gut cancer, but certainly cardiovascular system as well, and the central nervous system. The other thing about central nervous system is that there's plenty of studies, and in the specialty I used to practice, Parkinson's, for example, and dementias, what we know is that the gut, of course, gut doesn't move on its own. It's got nerve supply. So the vagus nerve, for example, has branches all around the gut for peristalsis. Okay, and then the inflammation translates into the neurons. There's something called mitochondria in the nerve cells, on all cells, and they breathe, and they are metabolic, and they make the cell live. That mitochondria also gets rid of toxins from each cell. Each little cell has its own biochemistry, and the mitochondria clears the toxins. But just imagine, the garbage collection stops, after a couple of months, you have problems on the street. You've got all sorts of rats and animals coming. That's what happens literally to our nerve cells. They start to signal upwards. The vagus nerve collects everything, goes to the stomach, then goes to the esophagus, then goes back to the brain and the brainstem, and that connects to the brainstem. For example, one study in Parkinson's clearly showed that in the old days, we didn't have omeprazole or acid blocking tablets. So they used to do vagotomies and pyroplasties. So it's to cut the vagus nerve to allow the acid in the stomach to go quickly out. And so it wouldn't cause peptic ulceration or make the bleeding ulcer wouldn't bleed too much, and it'll heal on its own. But to hasten it, everybody that had full vagotomy, they had very, very low or no primary idiopathic Parkinson's disease. But later on, as vagotomy stopped, that population, it changed, and everybody had the same prevalence of Parkinson's disease. In other words, the cells do not function well. The nerve cells metabolism collects abnormal things like alpha-synuclein, beta amyloid. These are all things that cause neurodegenerative disease in the brain. They signal upwards, signal up to the brain, and so it's indirect through vascular, direct through nerves, and also directly and indirectly through the blood supply itself, because the blood vessels are everywhere in the body, eyes, brain, everywhere. So it's a
That was
complex.
fascinating. That was just fascinating. I could listen to you talk forever, but that's such important information because people don't realize that, it's a cumulative effect. And I don't think I even realized as a nurse that it affects every single cell and in your body. So that was very, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's a link with meditation, if I may. There's a strong link of gut-brain axis with meditation, transcendental meditation. It can be partly explained by the vagal nerve activation, parasympathetic nerve activation, and reduction of inflammation and reduction of cytokines. And that is also linked with, and I cannot explain the deep transcendental meditation that this meditation, for example, this satsang is way above what I'm saying. You can multiply it by thousands of folds, because the grace of Guru cannot be explained by science. It can never. I don't know what science can explain that. It cannot be explained by science. That's all I can say. Thank you.
That was amazing. And yeah, I mean, so many people have stories of satsang and how magical it is and all the things. So, Dad, I'm sure you can speak on that.
Yeah, it's the way I look at it is it's more about what we finally experience ourselves, right? So anybody who practices needs to make it its own. So usually don't talk about. I mean, we want to talk about benefits and inspire people and motivate people, but the biggest motivation comes from making it your own, right? And experiencing it on your own.
Well, I love that. And I think we've had a lot of information. So if anybody does want to come say hi, feel free. Otherwise, I think this was a great session. And thank you, Arvind Uncle, for informing us about all of that. That was amazing. So, yeah.
All right. So next week it'll be, from Philadelphia. And yeah, love, light, and peace be with you. We'll see you all soon.
All right. Happy Saturday, guys.
Thank you so much. Happy Saturday. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye, Lou.
नमस्ते भैया, नमस्ते पारुल, सभी को नमस्कार।
Arvind ji, AC.
प्रणाम भैया।
चरण स्पर्श भैया, सभी को प्रणाम।